We're going to continue applying the Cahn-Ingold-Prelog rules to assign absolute configurations. So first, assigning priority. Second, viewing the molecule with the lowest priority group away from my view. And then following the priorities highest to lowest. And so 1, 2, 3, essentially. The lowest is away from you always. But let's try another molecule to do this. So now, let's do this. And I have a bromine here. Okay, in that molecule, I identify the carbon with the bromine as my chiral center. So I'm going to draw here a little star here. We know there's no more chiral centers here because this is a CH2, so two substituents are the same, CH2, CH2. And these are sp2 carbons. So that's my chiral center. I also know that I have to have 4 different substituents. That's an sp3 carbon. So I have a hydrogen here. So first step is assigning priorities. And in doing so, I see that highest atomic number is bromine, so I'm going to cite that number 4. And of the 4 substituents, lowest here is a hydrogen. But now in the attached directly, I have here a carbon and here a carbon. How can I distinguish those two? Again, we say that the first layer is that. Now, to break the tie, we need to analyze how they are connected. Connected to what? So I'll say here, carbon, this carbon right here has 2 hydrogens. We know this is a CH2. So this carbon is attached to a carbon and to 2 hydrogen atoms. Now, the carbon on the other side has 2 bonds to carbon. So 1 bond, 2 bond to carbon. So 1 and 2. And it also has a hydrogen. So I'm going to draw that. So again, you count that this is 2 bonds. So 1 bond to carbon, another bond to carbon. So here is the 2 bonds. And 1 bond to hydrogen. Now, because there is a tie in the first layers of carbon and carbon, I'm going to compare what is attached to that. And I'm going to say, okay, first layer is carbon, carbon, and now the second layer is also 2 carbons. So I need to go further away. But I see that here I have a hydrogen and a carbon. So even though first here is carbon-carbon, here carbon-carbon, now I have another carbon here, and here I have a hydrogen. So the group here with the double bond has higher priority because of that, so breaking the tie. So that will be priority 2, and this will be priority 3. Now that I have assigned my priorities, I'm breaking the tie. What I'm going to do, I need to check if I am viewing it that the right way. So with the lowest priority group away from my view, and it is, I have the hydrogen in the back. It is on a dash. So next step is then following highest priority, second highest. So see, priority 1 is where the bromine is, and second is over to that side. And then I go over here, so I am rotating clockwise, so it is, configuration is R. Okay, so let's try something else. I'm gonna draw another, let's draw another molecule here. And all right. All right, so that's a little bit more complicated, but the first thing I need to know is that this is a chiral center. So first is identifying a chiral center. So the atom here, the carbon atom here, has attached 2 metal groups, so it's not a chiral center. 2 substituents are the same. This carbon here has attached 3 metals, 3 of the same, not a chiral center. However, the one in the center has a metal, an ethyl, an isopropyl, and a terbutyl. So I could have, I can make this let's do another picture. I can say metal, just assigning those names. This is ethyl. This is a tribute. And this is an isopropyl. All right, so those are the names. But now, first thing I noticed is that there is no hydrogen, right? And I need to find what is the priority groups. So first I'm gonna make it, let's try to find the lowest priority. All of those I see that carbon, 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 carbon. Well, all of them are the same. So there is a tie. So, but as analyzing what's attached to it, to each one, this carbon has attached 3 hydrogen groups. The carbon here is attached to another carbon and HH, so carbon, hydrogen, hydrogen. Now, the carbon that I'm pointing at right now has a bond to a carbon, to another carbon, 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 and a hydrogen. Remember that this is here. So carbon, carbon, hydrogen. Now, the carbon to the other side has a bond to carbon, carbon, carbon. So I'm going to write carbon, carbon, carbon. Now, I know there is a tie in the first instance. So I know all of them are carbon. Carbon here, I got to draw little dots, right? Carbon, carbon, carbon. So that's, say, my first layer. So I'm breaking the tie here. And so, but I noticed that this one has attached 3 H's. Everything else has something else. So that is my lowest priority. So I'm going to put that here, the number 4. And notice the lowest priority in this case is a metal, not a hydrogen. Now, comparing the other 3, I said that this one has carbon, carbon, carbon. This carbon, carbon, hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen, hydrogen. So my highest priority is this one. Because when I say, if you compare this two, there's a tie, but now here, this is higher priority. So this group is my priority 1. Then between these two, I see that carbon, carbon, but then I have hydrogen here and carbon here. So this is the second highest, and this is the third priority. And so we go now. This is just assigning priorities, but actually not seeing that the right way. So I'm going to do another drawing, and for that I need to erase this because I'm going to simplify that, and I'm just going to use the numbers now that I have assigned the priorities. Again, if there's a tie, you need to see what is connected to each of the atoms. So simplifying that drawing, I'm going to go and say this is priority 4, this one right here, this is priority 3, and this is priority 1, and this is priority 2. But, okay. So we have simplified that drawing, right? And now all I have is numbers, so I have replaced the metal group by a 4, the ethyl group by number 3, and so on. That this drawing looks easier to understand, right? But I see that my priority 4 is pointing towards me, and I need to be away from my view. So all I'm doing is the same thing I did before. I'm going to rotate 180 and make another drawing. And now this is going to switch places. These two are going to switch places. And I'm going to have my priority 4 here. This is going to be a 3. And this a 1 and a 2. And now I can assign the absolute configuration. The lowest priority is away from my view. And I can go 1, 2, and 3. That is S configuration. This is a bit more complicated, but following the rules. Again, you assign priorities first. You notice that there was a tie. The only atoms attached were carbon atoms, so you need to see what's attached to them and break the tie. Of course, you first need to determine that they were different substituents. And remember, in this case, we had a methyl group as the lowest priority.